Your website doesn't need to go away, but 90% of its human visitors probably will. I realized I was spending more time in ChatGPT than in Google. This is going to permanently change the 90% of discovery and research that happens on the web. Approach each sales conversation with an education mindset. I have something to learn, you have something to learn. Let's start there.
Chris Andrews spent over a decade selling to the 500 largest banks and insurance companies in the world. He noticed a permanent shift in how humans browse, engage, and transact on the web. So he built Scrunch, a platform helping enterprises understand how their brands appear in AI search. As AI agents increasingly become the first stop for discovery, Scrunch is building the infrastructure that allows companies to monitor, optimize, and deliver their content directly to the models shaping the modern customer journey. This is the story of a founder who spotted a tectonic shift in consumer behavior before the market had a name for it, and built the infrastructure for what comes next.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Chris. I'm Chelci Taylor, investor here at Notable Capital, and I'm super excited to have Chris Andrew here, CEO and founder of Scrunch. Chris, we're going to talk about a lot of topics today, but in particular, the change in AI and marketing, and you're sitting at the intersection of that. So why don't we just kick off? Tell me a little bit about yourself and also Scrunch.
So I'm the co-founder and CEO for Scrunch. We've built a customer experience platform to help enterprises navigate this new customer journey, right? That's starting with humans often asking a question in AI search and getting an answer. And so we've built a platform to help companies understand how they show up in AI search, the things that are influencing it, what insights they can glean from that, and then a platform to help optimize and deliver content more effectively to AI.
So it's definitely a really important moment in time, but I'm curious, kind of what did you see or did you observe from either a customer behavior shift or other signals that said hey, now's the moment to launch Scrunch and build in this space?
Yeah, like you, it was personal behavior change. I think it was a little over 2 years ago where I realized I was spending more time in ChatGPT than in Google. And this was before the models had web search capabilities, right? So it's kind of here's your answer. Warning, it's a year out of date. And I was honestly, it's good enough most of the time. And if the models incorporate web search, which intuitively we expected they would, this is going to permanently change the 90% of discovery and research that happens on the web and may change the bottom of the funnel, the outcomes, the purchase behavior, which is starting to occur. So the company was really born out of, hey, this is going to be a fundamental shift in terms of how humans browse, engage, transact on the web. And a new marketing technology stack is going to emerge because of it. Very basic insights. If you go to Google and ask a question, you get a different answer from ChatGPT. If you ask Google a question now, you get an AI overview. So my kind of most ironic panel interviews with folks are I've never used AI search, but I love that Google just answers the question now. And it's well, the AI overview is powered by a large language model. So the speed at which with which consumer behavior has changed led me to believe it was going to be a great opportunity to build a company around that shift. I've been impressed by how forward-thinking marketers have been. Maybe it's indicative of the category or of the function. They always need to be thinking ahead to stay employed. There's a lot of turnover in the CMO role. But I think what people are seeing is wait a second, I'm not visiting websites anymore. We spend a lot of our money and resources on perfecting our website for humans or for the Google bot. What do our experiences and content need to look like in a world where the primary consumer of that content is an AI agent? And that's more personal than it sounds because the AI agent is arriving with context and intent on a website. And I think marketers are starting to fast forward to say, maybe the pane of glass where our message and content and products are delivered is going to change this quickly. And so we're seeing marketers fast forward to look, I think my website's going to be entirely different a year from now. You're an investor, they're chaos, right? It's there's 10,000 companies on this page. Companies have spent so much time and resources building the perfect martech stack to map our customer journey. I think what's happening now is it's more about marketing to technology. It's less about piecing together the perfect marketing technology stack and more saying AI agents are working on behalf of a human. And if I don't understand how to relate to that agent and market to the agent, I'm missing the human. And so that shift is really top of mind for a lot of CMOs right now.
I remember when I first met you a couple months ago and you described this and you're thinking around, again, there's going to now be this like intermediary, which is the agent that kind of disintermediates as well, the brand and the human, and how important it is to kind of build a technology that can help folks manage that shift. I found it really compelling. So it's cool and interesting to hear that you're having that same response from CMOs. But let's go a level deeper. Can you talk me through kind of like how some of your best customers are leveraging your technology today?
There's kind of a couple core components to the platform. I'd group monitoring and insights as kind of the core foundation. If you don't have data to understand your brand's presence or the frequency with which agents are consuming your content, it's hard to enact change. So we have our monitoring and insights platform and then our agent experience platform. So on the monitoring and insights level, we often start with a really deep understanding of, well, how frequently are AI agents on my website? What are they consuming? What are they doing? Are they indexing my content? Are they training off my content? Are they live retrieving my content? And so the monitoring platform starts with, hey, this is happening today, whether you realize it or not, and giving and kind of bringing clarity to that. Then it moves into a lot of this AI search monitoring capability to say, well, what are these platforms saying about my brand, the topics I care about, us compared to competitors? Is it my content getting used or third-party content? And that's driving a lot of action both on internal content teams, but also for third-party and kind of partner PR teams around like, well, what sources are the models valuing because they're driving a lot of the relevance in the platforms. And then beyond that, we're building quite a bit on the site audit and content delivery side around, well, what is the intent of each page on my website, right? You've built websites for humans, you've built websites for the Google bot. What happens when an AI agent arrives on that website and tries to make sense of it? And we've built something, we think of it as scrunching the website, like take a visual, JavaScript heavy interactive site and scrunch that down to the intent. Like, what was the intent of your pricing page? Well, it was to make sure the AI agent understands that intent, and then a partner model to actually deliver that optimized content to AI agents as they retrieve it. So think of it as kind of a parallel version of your site without impacting the human experience. So as agents come in, they get a version of the content optimized for retrieval to answer the questions that we know the prompts are based on. So I think there's going to be an end-to-end platform that facilitates the visibility all the way to the outcome that companies have in mind.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm curious, across kind of the folks that you work with, I imagine this is a ubiquitous problem, but curious, are you actually seeing that across your customer base? Are you working with different types of customers, different types of brands? Are you finding that, hey, right now this is most topical for maybe B2B? Just curious.
It's so widespread. I come from a background working in vertical SaaS. So my last company, Hearsay Systems, we only sold to the top 500 banks and insurance companies, very compliance driven, very enterprise grade. That foundation is proving really, really valuable for our team. But my observation is almost every company in the world is racing to understand this shift. Again, I think because it's so personal. It's like, as soon as you say, hey, you know, your website doesn't need to go away, but 90% of its human visitors probably will. People pause and they say, yeah, that's true in, you know, retail. It's true in education. It's true in pharmaceuticals. It's true in B2B SaaS. It's true in computer hardware. And so we found that, you know, the largest companies in the world are moving really quickly. Like, I think when I look at the Fortune 500, we probably have 10 plus different verticals represented: financial services, pharmaceuticals, retail, software, you know, you name it, computer hardware, just trying to think about all the different use cases. But the mental shift is consistent. It's like the way people are going to understand my product and service has shifted, and therefore the way we market and relate needs to change. So it's pretty horizontal at this stage in the business.
Talk to me a little bit around kind of your advantage from a Scrunch perspective, what some of your moats are and why you can win, say, 10 customers in the Fortune 100 or 500 want to choose you.
No, we're the only one in the category.
Yes,
Let's
exactly.
be clear. No,
Let the record reflect. There's only one.
No, I think honestly, the category is busy. There's a lot of great companies in the space. And I think some of the foundational things we've done are, my co-founder, Robert, is an enterprise software guy, right? It's like being SOC 2 Type 2, building API first so that the largest companies in the world can consume and use the data the way they need to, building for role-based access controls, and building for really advanced configuration of the data, building in environments where each company's data stays its own data. You'll meet people that might tell you they know everything about the category or that they're number one. I think the reality is the space is moving really, really quickly, right? There's a ton of change that's happening daily. Like in the last month, we've seen a new browser from GPT. We've seen new shopping capabilities from GPT. You need a partner that is constantly learning and evolving with you and is smart enough to know that they don't know everything. I think our people are really becoming a moat. I think thinking holistically about the problem. I think there's been a lot of companies in the space that almost started with somewhat of an agency mindset of like, hey, these are the topics that you're going to monitor. We're not going to let you build your own prompts or build your own topics and build your own themes. And then connecting kind of the technical audit capabilities and the technical observability of what are AI agents doing on my site and how do I dynamically think about what that means for my content management, my content optimization, and my content delivery. I think one clarification that's helpful is the AI agents are pretty elementary today. Like when we say AI agent, we're largely talking about retrieval bots, right? So someone's asking a question in GPT or Perplexity and their essentially crawler is scraping content to synthesize it with other sources to answer a human's question. These agents are going to get far more sophisticated. They're going to go to websites and navigate on our behalf. There's already some experiments there. But if you just take a second and put yourself in the shoes of said AI agent, if it's a very visual website without a lot of clear language, large language models are biased towards language. They like conversational text. They're looking for FAQs. They're looking for unbiased content, right? They're doing what we've kind of done as humans, which is I want to go look at a few sources, synthesize that information, and then return it as an answer and cite my sources. Like that's what we do as humans when we browse the web. So what we found is making sure the page is really clear, like, well, what does your company do? Who do you serve? If the page is about pricing or features or FAQs, really making that information conversational, FAQ driven, rich enough and tailored to different personas. Like I'm finding the long tail of content is having a bigger impact in AI search because nobody's going to ChatGPT and typing in one word, right? Google's almost been like a directional search engine of like, here's the company's name, click on the company's website. GPT gets so much more context from us and it's looking to match that content to human intent. So we see companies that are bringing treasure troves of data online because they want to understand, hey, when the model trains on this data and retrieves this data, does it start to get cited? Does it start to get used? And we're seeing those efforts of making content optimized for AI, bringing it online, and then measuring how it's used and how it's impacting the quality of answers. It's working in terms of like an increase in presence, an increase in depth of answer, an increase of citation rate.
Nobody knows the right answer, but I'd be curious to know, what do you think, you and I, how are we browsing, how are we engaging, finding our next favorite brand on the internet?
I think this is becoming a little more commonly accepted than maybe when I said it 6 months ago, which is I think 99% of search will be AI search. And when I say AI search, I simply mean we've outsourced browsing to these large language models. So that top of funnel discovery and research phase, we're already seeing it happen. Over 50% of search in North America is AI search powered. They're getting an answer instead of websites. That's happened faster than most people would have thought. I think how far down that purchase funnel AI will power is an open question. And if you think about the tedious parts, I think AI and LLMs will get really good at removing that from your process. And that's why we're habituating to them. So I think if I had to guess, I think we'll see a massive shift in what we think of the role of a website is for. I think we've thought of that as a visual representation of our brand that humans navigate. I fundamentally believe it's going to be a largely non-visual content repository dynamically mapping to human intent brokered by AI. And content will be managed, optimized, and delivered differently because of that. I think the purchase experience will continue to shift. I don't know how much of commerce will shift directly to ChatGPT versus still through an app or native checkout for brands, but I know the largest brands in the world are testing. If you think about the vast majority of content on the web that is there to aid in discovery and research, I don't think we want to browse and consume it, right? I think we've already seen that change when we started building content just for the Google bot, right? Like if you think about most of the content on the web, I would argue it's to get ranked by Google. Like I think we want those stories as humans. on the personal side, I actually think like the arts are going to have a resurgence like we've never seen, because live theater, dance, comedy, music, like true human performance, I think is going to be celebrated at a level that's amazing they're doing that. We know it's not AI. And I think creative agencies and brands are going to have a huge role in creating that. And there's going to be a shift in the vast majority of content used for discovery and research. And as someone who loves the creative practices personally and enjoys them when I see them on the professional side, I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, we're spending more money than ever on video content, on brand content, on a creative director, because I think it's critical. And I think that's partly how your brand stands out and how people, identify with you.
If this episode changed the way you think about AI, marketing, and the future of the customer journey, subscribe now to stay locked into the conversations shaping the next generation of enterprise technology.